Hey legends, Dana White has just announced some breaking news for UFC Abu Dhabi. We're going to look at that entire card, talk about it, and give some early predictions. Plus, Tony Furgerson and Nick Diaz are back. Both on the same card, but not with the opponents that we thought it would be. Not the fight that we expected for Tony Furgerson and Nick Diaz. Turns out the rumors were true and a little bit wrong at the same time. So, let's get into it. So Dana White announced for August 3rd, Fight Night Abu Dhabi. First fight, main event up on the fight cards is one that we already knew about. Corey Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Now, we all knew that this one was going to be coming. And quite frankly, I think it's a little bit of a undeserved shot up the rankings for Umar. Apparently, nobody wants to fight this guy. That's what they all say. Why don't you guys fight each other from Dagestan, huh? How about that? Anyway, doesn't matter. So it's going to be Umar versus Corey Sandhagen. Again, I think Corey Sandhagen is going to be able to win this one. I think he's going to be able to edge it out with just the right decision making. I think he's going to be able to handle the stand-up pressure. I think he's going to be able to handle whatever takedowns Umar throws at him when he realizes that the stand-up isn't going his way. Overall, I'm just going to be backing Corey Sandhagen in this one. I do think there are levels to this shit, as the fighters like to say, and Corey Sandhagen is that level above. And damn, the beard game is sloppy today. I think it's time for a haircut tonight, boys. What do you reckon? Okay, the next one up is the interesting one. And this one is really splitting the community down the middle. I think it's going to split my community over here in the corner down the middle as well. The entire MMA community knows about this one now. It's Vicente Luque versus Nick Diaz. I've been seeing throughout the comments section people loving this fight, people getting hyped about this fight. So many people are like, oh my God, Nick Diaz is back. It's going to be 5 rounds. It's going to be a war. And I've talked about Nick Diaz. It was the first video I ever made on this channel, was a Nick Diaz video. I've talked about the Diaz brothers often. I know how much of an unpopular opinion this is. I know that every single time I talk about Nick Diaz, I get some bloody haters in the comments giving me shit about it. I completely understand. So I get it. There are a lot of people out there that love him, but this still isn't going to change my opinion about Nick Diaz in 2024, okay? I love Nick Diaz too, okay? He is a legend of the sport. He is an old legend of the sport. He has done so much for MMA, not just in the UFC, but over in Strikeforce. And of course, the Diaz army, like his brother, what his brother's done for the sport as well. Him versus Conor McGregor 1 and 2 helped elevate the sport to the level that it is. And I'm talking about Nate Diaz here. Then, of course, there's all the work they do with the youth in their local community. I could go on and on about how brilliant of a legacy the Diaz brothers have in the UFC. And then their opponent as well, Vicente Luque, another much-loved fan of the sport, another person that the crowds want to get behind. He's given his life to this sport. He's been here since 2015. So many people's favorite fighter. I can understand why, with the history of these two guys, there is so much love and hype in the community for these two gladiators. Now that I've said all of that, I have absolutely zero hype, zero riz, zero fizz. My MMA juices aren't flowing. I am not looking through this with rose-colored glasses. They both, in their last fight, looked horrible. There's nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing wrong with admitting that as a man, that you just don't have it in you anymore. That's what life is about. That's what men's role in society is about. When we age up and get old enough and survive the battlefield of life, it's time to step back and to teach the young guns coming up all those hard-learned lessons. It's not about fighting the wars anymore. The warriors from the past have to teach the next generation coming up. And at some point, the old bloke just doesn't have it anymore, okay? The young hero needs the old master to pass on the knowledge. There's nothing wrong with admitting that one day you're just that guy. You're the old, washed up, done bloke. And this fight has got 2 old, washed up, done blokes in it. Begin your hate comments, I know. Look, Nick Diaz, all right, in his last fight, he looked especially horrible, He was so slow that when I was watching that fight live on the stream, I honestly thought that my stream was lagging. I thought that like the pace of the fight was just so slow. And not just the pace of the fight, the body language going into the fight, the muscle definition, the gray face. He looks like an old grizzled lion. Nick Diaz is an old man. He is wearing his age, I would argue, worse than Tyson Fury is wearing his age. And then you got Vicente Luque, all right? His last fight against Buckley. Vicente Luque, again, is an absolute warrior. I do not blame Vicente Luque for being in the position that he finds himself in. The brain injury is horrible. He nearly gave his life to the sport. But Vicente Luque could have easily gotten up. He put himself down underneath Buckley. He could have easily gotten up. There was so much room for his feet to post on the hips. His bum was pretty much already out and free. All he had to do was stand up, and he just crumbled. He crumbled under the pressure. So now we're putting two old guys that have both in their last fights crumbled under the pressure. I don't get it. I don't get why we're excited for them. Honestly, I'm not excited for it. So leading up to August 3rd, somewhere I'm going to need to just convince myself to just look at this fight from what it is, watch it from afar, and just enjoy it. You know, it's not an important fight. Just sit back and enjoy the show. There's other fighters that are like that these days where it's just, we're just here for a bit of fun. We're just watching it because we're MMA fans, so let's just watch it. It's a bit of fun. Nick Diaz versus Vicente Luque. It's happening. Am I excited? I can't be. I just can't be excited yet. Next one up, they got events. Marlon Chito Vera versus Davison Figueiredo in a 3-round fight. I like this one. I like this one a lot. I think it's a banger of a fight. I think it's the right move for Figueiredo. And I see Figueiredo winning this one, okay? We might talk about this one a little bit more. For the sake of brevity, I'll move on. But I do see Figueiredo winning this one because there was one more fight that got announced for UFC Abu Dhabi on August 3rd that I want to talk about. And it is Tony Furgerson versus Michael Chiesa. Now, two things. Number one, why on God's green earth is Tony Furgerson and Nick Diaz on the same card, but they are not fighting each other? What the fuck is going on with that? And number 1.5, let's call it, right? Why is this fight not happening as the main event of a fight night in Las Vegas or in LA? Anywhere in LA. Right in front of that old grey tap-out beanie wearing hardcore fan base. Drop the ticket prices back down to $300 a ticket. Let's call that low. What an economy we're living in. But let's drop the ticket prices back down. Let's put it in LA. Let's make them the main event and put them both out there for a double retirement fight night. Why is that not happening? You've got two of the oldest legends of the sport on what might be their last fight on the same card, not fighting each other in the Middle East. Who the fuck came up with that? Anyway, right, so you've got that happening, okay? But then the second point about Michael Chiesa versus Tony Furgerson, I think Tony Furgerson can win this. How crazy is that? How lowly do I think of Michael Chiesa? Look, Michael Chiesa, to me, is somebody that in 2024 seems like he's too scared to strike. I know that's crazy to say, but it feels like he's just too cognizant of his age and CTE to still be a warrior. I think that warrior spirit has actually left him, right? And when you look at Tony Furgerson, he's still a psycho. And his striking is still there. What sucks about Tony Furgerson is his speed and his power is gone, and he still thinks that he can win on the bottom position. But Tony Ferguson's general level of striking, his accuracy is still there. So the way that I see this fight playing out is that Michael Chiesa and Tony Furgerson are going to start on the feet. Every fight stands on the feet. But Tony Furgerson is going to start slowly winning those rounds. He's going to start winning those exchanges, Tony's going to win the exchanges on the feet. And then, of course, we're going to transition to the ground game of the fight. As Tony starts winning on the feet, Chiesa is going to be like, I don't like punching. I don't like getting hit straight away. Let's do some jiu-jitsu. And Tony Ferguson's going to win that too. I think Tony Furgerson has essentially got more killer spirit in him. And in MMA, when both the people are very good jiu-jitsu practitioners, it sort of cancels itself out because there's so much else going on in MMA with the striking and the elbows and the grappling and the wrestling. It sort of makes jiu-jitsu a little bit useless against competent jiu-jitsu practitioners in MMA. And Tony Furgerson is more than competent when it comes to practicing jiu-jitsu in MMA. Now, I can hear some of you out there. I can read some of you down there in the comments already being like, but Doug, didn't Nate Diaz just submit Tony Furgerson? You're right, chat. But it's time for a little bit of Dougie's Delusion. I'm going to believe Tony Ferguson and just say that he wanted Nate Diaz to leave the UFC with a win. He was being accompanied. That's my excuse for why Tony Ferguson was submitted against Nate Diaz. I think Tony Ferguson can get it done against Michael Chiesa. This is crazy. So maybe I am looking forward to this. Oh my God, seeing Tony Ferguson win one more time. I think I am looking forward to this. All right, UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. I found something to be excited about. How good is that? If you enjoyed this video, go ahead, leave a like, leave a comment. Who do you think is going to win out of these fights? Let's talk about Davison Figueiredo and Corey Sandhagen, those serious fights, later. We got months to talk about that. In this video, who do you think is going to win? Tony Ferguson against Chiesa or Nick Diaz against Vicente Luque? Put that down there in the comments. If you really enjoyed this video, you can probably tell I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs. Look, the sooner we get to 1,000 subs, the sooner I can stop harping on about it in every video. So grab your bloody mum's phone, grab your dad's phone. If you see somebody in the grocery store, grab their phone, punch in Dougie's Corner, get them to subscribe to the channel, and then I can stop hassling you guys about it in every single video. Until then, you guys have a very good day. Until then, have a great night, and I'll see you all in the next one.